Hey everybody, welcome back to Change Your Awareness, Change Your Perspective, Change Your Life. I'm Dr. Michelina AF, hashtag that felon doctor, I was going into toxic, right? I started filming that yesterday and it didn't really work out, and I was like, I think I still have a little bit more to talk about with the journey. I think this is really the last one, and I think it's going to help you radically, and it has to do with figuring out, well, a lot of things, but what you have to offer based on who you are and what you want out of life. Okay, so this is so important. This is, again, the tangible steps that I took to help me really move into the things that I want in the ways that I want them, and to show up in resilience and to show up in positivity despite the circumstances and the adversity and all the things. So this is so important, right? It is, and it does take work, okay? Figuring out the things that are legitimately true to you. Do you like to travel or don't you? Do you like to go out or don't you? Do you want to have a lot of friends, or you just want to have your spouse? Do you really want to have kids or don't you? Do you really want to be a husband or don't you? Now, this is hard. Oh, and then all those things plus all the other things. And if you're already doing some of those, how is it not productive or serving? How does it be more along the lines of what you actually want it to look like, right? So this is a thing that is very important. And it can be tough because it might blow up your life. But a lot of us are walking around in lives we don't actually want. And we just keep drifting through those lives because we don't know how to shift it. We don't know how to change it. And I know I know that's hard. I know that's a hard thing because you're like, well, I'm going to stay here for the kids. Or I'm going to do this for that. Or the worst thing you can do is live a life that you hate. It is the worst thing you can do. So either A, learn how to love the life you live, or B, change it. That's it. Those are the options, okay? There's not a lot otherwise that's going to serve you, right? Because those are the things that'll make your life go into a growth place. If you hate your life and you just keep living it, you're going to be in death energy. Okay, you're going to be in death energy. And, sorry guys, trying to fix this hair, I made it worse. And the importance of knowing yourself in that journey, in that process, is tantamount. I can't explain how important it is, okay? So like for me, I had to learn a lot of things. And that kind of went back to, so when I was with my ex, who meant well and on paper looked like the person I wanted to be with, right? Like he had checked every box that I had made for myself, kind of like out of my own naive space. But fundamentally, he and I were not compatible. And that's okay, right? So when he started kind of talking about all the things he wanted, right? Like he wanted to settle down in our hometown. He wanted to have kids. He was like looking to consolidate our finances. He was like looking to buy a home. And all of that, very normal, good stuff for somebody, felt like death and smothering to me. I was like, I don't want any of this. So we went to consolidate finances and things, and like it locked me into teaching for another 10 years. And I was like, no. I was like, I want to be out of teaching in like a year. I was like, I want to be getting my doctorate. Like I want to be moving out of this state. I was in New Jersey at the time. I was like, I don't want any of this. I don't want any of this life that you're trying to lock me into. And so, not surprisingly, that was right around the time that I started having a closer relationship with somebody that I shouldn't have had a closer relationship to. And one of the many reasons, subconsciously, it wasn't conscious, but again, we function out of 95% of our subconscious. I talk about this more in Toxic. We'll talk about it next time. But one of the subconscious reasons that like everything happened in my life to blow it up was because I wanted to blow it up. Non-intentionally, but I was like, I don't want this future you're painting for me, for us. I remember walking on the campus of Arizona State, and I was like, I want to be here. Like, I want to live anywhere else. Like, I want to go. And he was like, well, yeah, you can always come back at like 65. after we raised kids and a family, and I was like, no. Now, I didn't know myself well enough at 28, 29 to know that that was abhorrent to me. I didn't know it. I didn't know it beforehand. Like when I got into a relationship with him, I didn't realize everything I'm telling you now, right? So he and I, obviously, all the things happened. We broke up. I moved down to North Carolina, and I stayed single for a year and a half. I was like just figuring out who I am, figuring out what I really want and don't want, figuring out how to navigate life with a sentence. Like, do I even want to try to date anybody when I have this life sentence? Like, is that even fair to them? It's a lot of things that I was like navigating through. And so then when I like jumped back into the dating world in June of 2022, it's like right around Memorial Day, where I was like, and it wasn't even the dating world. I was just looking for connections. Like I had moved into a new place in North Carolina. I was like, I don't know anybody. Like, let me just jump into meet people. And so I did my first and last stint on dating sites. I went on Bumble, right? Because Bumble has like relationship, business, and friendship. And I was like, oh, like I'm looking for connections. I wasn't even looking for partnership. I was looking for connections, right? Because I was like, I don't know anybody. And so it was very easy on my dating profile to know all the things that I did and didn't want, because I'd worked for the last year and a half to figure it out. And so a lot of the men who like partnered or like who were like interested in me on my profile, on my page, like I was very clear, like not getting vaccinated, not having kids, do want to be a wife, like have a lot of like these very like these are the standards. And of course in the South that's kind of an anomaly. It's like, wait, you've never been married, you want to be married, you don't have kids, you're highly educated, like what is going on here? This is weird. You don't want kids is a thing that people are like, whoa, really? It's like kind of shocking. You know, most women do. But these are the things I know about myself. These are the things I know I bring to the table. And I know that because like I did the work of what I do and do not want, the life I do and do not want, the future I am working toward. Like I know the ABCs of myself at this point. I know my flaws, I know my strengths. And so I just like put it all on my profile. And it rang very true. Like I can't tell you how many people are like, wow, when they would meet me, they're like, you're exactly as you seem like you are. And I'm like, I know, thank you. Appreciate that. With the exception of one glaring exception that did not happen. One glaring exception where like, it was very strange energy. Like that's its own story for a whole other day. But for the most part. And so my question to you is, what do you want? What do you bring to the table? Right? Like, what do you offer? And we do this a lot in business, like on an interview or on a resume, but we don't do it a lot in life. And we need to get our life resumes up. And we do that by knowing what we are and what we're not. I know me. I'm never going to be like a 5'10", blonde, busty model. It's never going to happen. I'm a 5'3", tiny, brunette, small boobed girl. Like very easy to see that like I'm never going to be. Now, could I dye my hair blonde and get breast enhancements and put on high heels? Of course I could, but that's not me. I'm not going to do it. I know that about myself. I'm not going to sit here and try to be something I'm not. For what? You know? And that's not to say that there's anything wrong with people who do any of those things. That's just to say, like, if they're trying to get more in line with who they feel like they are, great. Most of the time that women are doing that is because they're trying to get more aligned with what society deems beautiful and acceptable. And it's like, no. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I'm not going to alter myself in any way. Physically or drastically. That's not to say that there aren't room for improvements. Obviously, you want to go to the gym. Like, I obviously altered myself from being 165 pounds to being 125 pounds because I was like, 125 pounds is more authentic to who I am and who I've always been. Like, this is not healthy and this is. So, it's not that there's not room for change. It's just that there's not room for like drastic change to be something else. Like drastically change to be more yourself radically and wonderfully, But anyway, so another topic for another day, but we can't move into authentic, like who we really are, if we don't know who we really are, if we don't embrace who we really are. Like I'm never going to be somebody who's just like a quiet, meek person. Not the one, like I'm just not. I'm never going to be an artist. Like I have no freaking artistic ability, like, so there are certain things that you have to know at the ABCs fundamentally about yourself. You're never going to be this thing. And that gets really tricky because we don't see ourselves clearly. So it's like what we do foolishly is like, well, I'm never going to be successful. No, like hell no. Like what the heck? No, that's not true at all. Of course you can be successful. We have to define what your parameters around success are, but like, what the hell are you doing if not trying to be successful to your definitions? That makes no sense to me. So no, that's not a true unbiased view of who you are and who you're not. And that's what people do, and they think that they're being discerning. And it's like, no, you're being limiting. Like that's not the thing, right? Now, knowing who you are fundamentally at your core is like the number one important thing to self-awareness. People don't do that for two reasons. The first is they don't want to look at themselves. The second is they don't have a safe space to look at themselves. This is why I offer one-on-one coaching, because like I'm very good at providing that safe space for you to just be who the hell you are. And like, I don't care. Just show up, The second thing that needs to happen once you figure out who you are is you need to figure out what you want. This is very hard for people because they look at the limitations. Well, I can't want this because of this, and this. Or, well, I can't do this because of that. We're always looking at the limitations. It's like, no, I don't care about any of that. Like, what do you want in your heart? Everything else outside of it, not important. We put the limitations on before they even need to be put there. It's ridiculous. And so people don't know what they want because they're afraid to get it. They're afraid to admit that they want it. And I was like this, right? Like I did this because I know, like, I want to be somebody's wife someday. Now that is the most terrifying thing to want as a very hyper independent, controlling woman. We'll talk more about that when we talk about toxic. But what I did for the first, pretty much 30 years of my life is deny intensely how much I would like to be somebody's wife, and instead just focused on the dream that I could handle myself, which is to say, being a PhD. That was also a dream of mine, but it was one that was not contingent on any factors but myself. Can I show up and do the work? Can I get in? Can I do this, that, and the other thing? It's not contingent on any factors. Whereas being somebody's wife, as like a woman, I need to wait for someone to propose to me. I have to like show up as a wife. I have to like I have no control in that process other than saying yes. Right? I don't get to dictate when it happens, how it happens. I'm traditional, right? I'm not going to propose to him. I'm sure there are feminists out there. That's not the romantic dynamic I want. Like I want my man to be a man and I want him to be the one that's pursuing me. So that's just for me personally. And again, I know that about myself. And so therefore I will wait. However, before I knew that about myself, I just didn't want to even admit how interested I was in being a wife. Because I was like, this is awful. This feels awful to want this thing and to never be able to get it. For myself, I have to wait on it. And so all I did was the self-work, right? Like I just did the self-work and we'll see what happens. As you can see, I'm still not a wife. That's okay. I'm only 33. Like someday, eventually, there's going to be somebody that I'm attracted to, who's attracted to me, that we come together, and et cetera, et cetera. It's fine. But like for now, it's not here. I'm not worried, And so you have to know who you are and what you want. It's the most important thing for your journey. It is the most important thing for your journey. And you're like, well, I'm already halfway through my journey. I'm 50 and we only have 100 years to live. That's true. You're not wrong. I'm 40. I'm 30. It is never too late to change your life. Like, it is never too late to change your life. And that's not to say it needs to be a radical shift. It might be. I mean, like I said, I've helped people through divorces. I've helped people through like affairs. I've helped people through like all types of crap, honestly. Help myself through my own crap, you know? When you get to the place where you're like, I don't like my life and something needs to change, it's imperative that introspection happens, but it's also really hard to do alone. And so I know that, like, a lot of the stuff I'm telling you that I didn't do a lot of it alone. I did a lot of reflecting. I did a lot of praying. I did a lot of like discussing and journaling. I did do that. But like, I was in therapy and I was working with coaches and I was having conversations and I was in places where I could be my safe self. I was making radical changes, you know? So like, I'm not telling you anything I didn't do. This is the concept of my own journey, right? So get self-aware. And if you're like, I can't even begin to understand how to do that, then you need to figure out who you need to contact to help you, okay? Because self-awareness is not a journey that can be embarked upon alone. That's the irony of like life. To attain self-awareness, you need an unbiased source to reflect back to you. The pickle in the jar cannot read its own label. You cannot do this work alone. It is not possible. Sorry, not sorry. Okay. That doesn't mean that you need to hire somebody, you know? That just means maybe you need to start listening to somebody who has already done this, right? Like some kind of a life coach, you know, Jordan Peterson, Tony Robbins, Jay Shetty. For me, I like to listen to Joyce Meyer because she's biblical as well. So if that's the first step, that's the first step. Change what you consume on Instagram and social media. Stop following things that are just for entertainment value and start following things that'll give you reflection and like education. That's the first step you can take, then that's the only step you can take. Fine. You're here, obviously, so you're already doing that. So I would say second step is, who are you talking to? Who are you hiring? There's no shame in hiring someone to listen to you. That's the smartest thing you can do because the people in your sphere of influence already have a preconceived notion of you. So hiring somebody who's unbiased is smart because sometimes it's easier for us to talk to strangers than it is to talk to people in our own lives. So who are you talking to, right? First, it's what are you watching? And then it's who are you talking to? So make sure you're talking to the right people about the right things. And then it's, of course, what are you doing? What are your actions? What are you doing? You know, what are you watching? Who are you talking to? What are you doing? Because you need to get self-aware. You need to figure out who you are. You need to figure out what you want. So that when people do this to me all the time, they're like, Michelina, what do you want? I will rattle it off. I'm like, this, and this. And they're big, big, big goals. They're huge dreams. And people are, wow. And I've always been like that. I always know what I want. I don't always know what I want. When I don't know what I want, I blow my life up. But for the most part, when I was younger, I was like, I want to be a high school teacher. I want to get my master's in English. I want to get my master's in teaching. I want to get my PhD. Like, I had it all very like mapped. And sure enough, like, it basically came to pass. Some things got messed up, kind of crazy, but all those things still existed. And then the new journey happened from that blow up. And now it's like, okay, yeah, I know where I want to go now. It could take, and for me, I'm like, I've got the next 30, 40, 50 years to work toward this. So who cares? I've got all the time in the world, assuming I don't die tomorrow, which is fine too. You know, I'm going to do what I can while I've got the chance to do it. So people ask me what I want. I know. Do you? Because if you don't, you need to get more self-aware. You need to figure out what you want. Okay. And if you haven't started talking to people who are effective, get my socials and hit me up in my messages, and or click the link and join Seasons in Science Academy, and or talk to somebody else. Talk to a therapist, talk to a different life coach. I don't care who you talk to. But if you want your life to change, you want your journey to look different, you got to take the steps. I did, and I'm just telling you about them, right? So, okay, I think that's really the end of my journey. I think we're really going into toxic. I'm excited for that series. I really am. So, should be a lot of fun. Hopefully you like what you're hearing here. So like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, get notified when I come up with new things, which is always happening. And I will see you guys on the next video.